What's going on, guys? It's Ben with liftedimports.com. Today I wanted to talk real quick just about some different recovery tools that I really like. I'm going to talk about Kinetic recovery ropes and then soft shackles. I'm going to explain to you why I use them, how I use them, just some of the different things that make these useful for Subaru owners. Now, before we jump into all that, if you want more info on lifting your Subaru, taking your Subaru off-road, you can absolutely head over to the liftedimports.com website. Got lots of information over there already and lots of good build features from other people just like us that are already lifting their Subarus and have been taking them off-road. But let's go ahead and jump in. So I want to talk about two pieces of equipment that I think are especially useful for us Subaru owners, specifically because most of our vehicles are going to be relatively less equipped from the factory to do proper recoveries, and we kind of want to alleviate the amount of stress and force that we're placing on the vehicle. Now that's where a Kinetic recovery rope comes in. These type of ropes are going to be different than like a toe strap, for example. Toe straps have almost no stretch to them, whereas a Kinetic recovery rope is actually made to flex and stretch during a recovery. Because they store energy, that energy has to go somewhere, and that gets dispersed during the recovery without applying a real sudden amount of shock to the vehicle and damaging things. Now, you can obviously still damage things, but this is one of my favorite pieces of equipment. I've pulled tons of people out with this in my Subaru. I've pulled a bunch of people out with this in my Jeep. These are just fantastic. I just leave it in the trunk, and then when I need it, I just throw the soft shackle around it, hook it up, and then put it on the car that needs to be recovered with another soft shackle, and I'm out. They work great. Now, there's definitely going to be people out there that can provide a little bit better, more technical explanation of how Kinetic recovery ropes work, but the long and the short of it, they are made to stretch during the recovery process, which means that that stored energy doesn't necessarily apply a bunch of shock to your vehicle all at once. It helps still pull the car out just as effectively, if not more, than if you were using a regular toe strap that didn't have any play or give in it. Same with a chain. It's hot out here today. My camera overheated, so I had to give it a rest. But anyways, we're back. In all honesty, I think all 4x4s, everybody that's off-roading, I think would benefit from using a Kinetic rope over something like a chain or a toe strap. And it just makes the recoveries a little bit safer and more comfortable. If something like a chain snaps during a recovery, they have been known to cause fatal accidents. Not as much with something like this. Now, you obviously want to be careful regardless, because these are typically going to be attached to things that are steel or something of that nature. Now, the next tool that I really like is going to be soft shackles. I'm going to show you real quick what they are and show you how they work. Now, basically, a soft shackle is just a piece of basically Kinetic rope that's, it's just a woven piece of material similar to what you'll find in winch line. It's going to have a knot on one end. Typically, it's going to have a protective sheath on it. They're going to have this other end right here. And basically what it is, it's hard to see, but one side of the rope of this rope has been fed through the fibers of the other side of it, and that creates a loop for you. You basically take this knot, put it through the loop, pull the loop tight, and that is not going anywhere. I know that seems a little bit risky. When these are set up correctly, I've never had one of these come loose. They do not come loose. Seriously, never. I've seen other people use them on the trails. I use them on the trail almost exclusively, and I've never had one come undone. Now, obviously, you want to just make sure it's on there good and tight. You know, make sure that it's on there the way it's meant to be. But these are so much more reliable than you might think. Now, there's a couple reasons that I really, really like these. Number one, this is just a light, you know, piece of kinetic material. It's fabric, basically. What that means is that you can use this to connect your recovery rope or even your winch line to another person's vehicle. And if for whatever reason your recovery line breaks, you're not sending a metal projectile through the air and towards whatever destination it may be headed at. That means that you and the people around you are going to be a little bit safer, and you are going to be much less likely to have a bad day instead of a good day. We all want to have good days on the trail. Now, aside from being safer, the other thing that I really like about these is the fact that they're a non-metallic item means that if you just bought yourself a nice new expensive worn winch bumper for your Crosstrek or Outback or Forester or whatever it is, or you had a custom built bumper made for you, the fact that this is fabric means that you can put this on that bumper and it's not going to mar the finish. Now, obviously we buy those things to use them, but as you start to damage the finish, you open it up for the possibility of rust. It's not just a cosmetic thing. Definitely, by preserving the finish of our off-road bumpers, we can hold off rust as long as possible, make sure that they're structurally sound for years to come. The other thing that I really like about the fact that they're, you know, not a really small D-ring. Actually, let me grab a D-ring for you real quick. So this is a D-ring shackle. I'm sure you guys have seen these. Now you can use a soft shackle in conjunction with a D-ring shackle, but I really like these because they allow for recovering from points that a D-ring shackle may not fit in. Let's say you're in a really, really tight situation and you need to be able to recover somebody that's stuck, and let's say they have a solid axle and you need to be able to pull from their axle for whatever reason. That may not really be recommended, but if you need to wrap something around the axle tube, good luck doing that with a D-ring. That's not going to fit. How are you going to get that through there? But with this, you can easily, boom, take it, wrap it around whatever it is you need, tighten it up, and you're good to go. Now, you don't want to just go pulling on anything. You need to know what you're doing. But if a situation really comes down to it where you need to recover a vehicle from a non-orthodox pulling point, these can allow you to do that. Different off-road bumpers may have points on them that you might not really be able to fit one of these through. For example, on one of my other vehicles, on my Jeep, I had a situation where, of course, since it's a Jeep, it died while we were on the trail, go figure. The only spot that I had to recover from on that vehicle in the front, I didn't have any good towing points on that vehicle. The only place that I could get a line connected was through the winch bumper where the fair lead is. Now, the fair lead is where the winch line comes through. And my only option was to run actually this exact Kinetic rope and this exact soft shackle. What I had to do was run this through the fair lead. Now, don't worry, the fair lead was reinforced by the steel bumper. There was something behind the fair lead, so don't worry about that. It didn't rip out or anything. But there's no way that I could have taken a D-ring shackle and fed it through. Trust me, it just wouldn't have fit. I tried, actually. This had no problem. I was able to feed it through easily with no problem at all, because this can fit through a pretty tight spot. Now, the other thing that I like is connecting a soft shackle is this simple. Boom, you put it on, pull it tight, you're good to go. That's it. With a D-ring, you gotta first, it's probably already like this, so first you're gonna have to do this. You have to unhook it, put your recovery line on, put it back in, And then you're gonna have to pull from it and then do all that over again just to get it off your recovery line. And these always tighten up during shock load, so you're gonna have to put a screwdriver through here to break it loose, or you can just leave it like a quarter turn before you pull on it. But either way, these take a lot more to set up. It's not crazy, but in a pinch, if you're really down in it, it's nice to have something that's easy to set up. You also don't have two pieces to drop. With these, you've always got two pieces that you need to worry about. And if you drop one, well, now you got to go find it, make sure you can get everything back together. And let's say you're working in mud or in water, you got to do recovery in the water. Either of these is going straight to the bottom of the water. It's immediately going to sink. Something like this is still going to sink, but it's bigger and it's lighter, definitely more buoyant. It's not going to sink as fast. I would wager to say that this might even float on top of mud for a little bit. I've dropped these in mud and been able to get them right up out of the mud super easily. These, not so much. Now, I like to keep these on hand. I usually leave one hooked up to my recovery point just because they're real easy to utilize in conjunction with a soft shackle. So I just, like on the Jeep, for example, a lot of times I'll just leave a D-ring attached to the rear recovery point. And then when I'm ready to go, boom, I just feed this through. Wham, bam. Now I'm good. That's literally all it is. But you don't need a D-ring shackle in most situations. So those are just some basic things to consider and basic reasons why I like to utilize soft shackles and kinetic ropes. With Subarus, they're just not as robust as most of the other vehicles that people are using for off-roading. And so being able to soften the blow that takes place when you're doing a recovery is absolutely helpful for our vehicles. Now, when you're buying soft shackles and recovery ropes, something that I would recommend is looking for an option that is coated. You'll notice, maybe you can see it, this recovery rope, it doesn't have any coating on the outside of it. You can see where the rope has started to fray. And if you get something that's a little bit better quality that has a coating on it, again, you'll look for something that'll say like coated or something like that. It'll definitely hold up, look better, last longer, you know, serve you better for years to come. You'll also find that some of the higher quality ones have some kind of a dipped coating on the looped ends. Yeah, that'll just help it, you know, retain its integrity for a lot of years. Now you can look at brands like Yankum ropes. There's another company called like Bubba ropes. Those are two good options, you know. I mean, if you're really in a pinch, just about anything will work. Yeah, I really think that with recovery gear, spending a little bit of extra money is worth it. But at the end of the day, if it's the difference between you carrying recovery gear and not, and you need to save a little money, I'd much rather you have something rather than nothing. Just make sure that you inspect your stuff, and if it looks like it's kind of on the edge of, you know, it's serviceable life, go ahead and retire it, you know, upgrade and buy something new to make sure that you're going to be safe out there. Well, guys, that's just a real quick tip that I wanted to share with you. This isn't, you know, groundbreaking or anything, but I think it's very applicable for a lot of us that are actually out on the trails, going off-road, you know, regardless of whether you're driving a Subaru or a 4x4 or whatever it is. These are some tips and some pieces of equipment that I've used that have made my life so much easier and made recovery so much safer, smoother. So if you got any questions, leave them down in the comments or head over to liftedimports.com website, shoot us an email. Don't forget to obviously subscribe to the channel, whatever. Dude, I'm gonna say it because it is what it is. And of course, like the video. See you guys out on the trail. Hope you have a fantastic day and definitely be safe out there.